Welcome inside the RxMuscle studios for another episode of Ask Dave, better known as #AskDave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. Glad you can join us on this 30-minute question and answer show on this Wednesday, August 17th in the year 2016. We are 4 weeks, officially now, 4 weeks away from Olympia weekend. This show takes all your questions on diet, supplementation, training, your questions about IFBB pros, Olympia qualified athletes, and of course, questions on the 2016 Olympia. We ask you to check out our YouTube channel, the RxMuscle YouTube channel, and RxMuscle.com for all the latest episodes of Live with Iron Debate and all the other shows that we're doing as a part of our 2016 Iron Road to the Olympia. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, we're going to get to this later on, but you're already getting questions about the new app, the new Dave Palumbo Experience app. So why don't you tell the fans a little bit more about it?
Yeah, someone reached out to me and said, hey, you really should have your own app. And I said, I agree, 100%. I said, how do we do it? I said, because I know apps are very expensive to make. And this guy was a business guy. He's smart. He knows our industry. And he said to me, look, I can get it done for us, at a good price, and involve, everyone involved would be a part of the project. And we believe in what you put out there and the knowledge that you impart to people. And I think the people would want to be a part of that. So I said, that's great. And I said, my idea always was to call it the Dave Palumbo Experience. In other words, everything that I bring to the table with regard to bodybuilding, which would be diet and nutrition and detoxification, performance-enhancing drugs, training, philosophies and theories. And so this app basically puts everything together. You can find all my old articles that I've written for every magazine of all time, is on this app. All the videos I've done. Plus there'll be original content on there at least like once a week. I'll have an original video that no one else will see anywhere other than this app. Plus there'll be training routines that you can follow that will be updated every week. There'll be diet information, and pretty much it's going to be like, if you can't afford to hire me as your coach, I'll be your coach on your phone, essentially. And I think people will really appreciate it. A lot of people have asked me about that, something like that. Because back in the day we had member sections on our website, and that's kind of passé now. So for $29 a month, you can sign up at, you go to DavePalumbo.com, or you can just go to the App Store and put the Dave Palumbo Experience in. It's available for Android or iPhone. And I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. Like I said, I know I have a lot of clients that are my clients, and they also subscribe to that because they just want all my information in one place, because it's hard to find. Everything's all over the freaking web. This is all the information in one area, and I think you guys will like it, because even if you watch these videos, they're videos that you can watch over and over and over, because you know what? I do that. The more you watch things and the more you allow it to immerse into your being, the more it becomes a part of you, and the more it becomes natural when people ask you questions, you just have the answers because you remember from watching the video 6,000 times. That's how I remember. I have a terrible memory, but so I watch things millions and millions of times. I make sure I understand what's going on, and then I have that at my beck and call. So check it out. You can check it out at DavePalumbo.com, or you can check it out right at the iPhone or Android App Store.
Let's get to your questions. We're going to start on the Muscle Central forum on RxMuscle.com. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're asking us questions on our Instagram page or Facebook page, we ask that you join the Muscle Central forum. It is free to register, and that way you will have access to all our content, especially now with the Olympia 4 weeks away. You'll have access to our contest gallery. Let's go to Steve MX. Dave, what is your opinion on taking your weekly TRT shot with an insulin pin in the side delt or leg as the standard syringe in the glute?
Insulin pins, you could probably get away with it if you're super lean and have a lot of muscle. I worry because you know what? Most people have some body fat subcutaneously, and if that insulin pin has got a very short tip, you really want the steroid or the testosterone to get into that muscle and deep. Otherwise, it has trouble being absorbed. It can leak out of the muscle. It can go into the skin, and it creates infection. Sometimes it can create an irritation. I would recommend using the smallest pin I would use would be a 25 gauge 1 inch. That's my recommendation. And since you brought up hormone replacement, I want to just bring up, I have mentioned a couple times already on my radio show about Titan Medical Centers. and how I have a new relationship with them I forged. They're down in Tampa. It's a hormone regeneration or rejuvenation clinic. Not only do they prescribe hormones, they have injectable amino acids, they have injectable antioxidants, and I've been sent a tremendous box of great stuff from them for my own hormone replacement. I sent them my blood. They sent me for blood work. I got my blood work done from them. And the great thing about Titan Medical is that you don't have to go down there. You can do Skype video conferencing with the doctor once. I think you need to do it once every 6 months or once a year. You don't have to go take a plane ride anywhere. And guess what? If your blood work works out and everything is done by the book, they will send you your prescriptions in the mail. I got my box of stuff. I'm going to Florida tomorrow, but when I get back, I'm going to do a great video on everything I got and how to use it. There's cool stuff I've never, ever used in there. I can't wait to get started. I'm a big believer in glutathione, which is a great antioxidant, which is really not that orally absorbable, but when you inject it, man, it really detoxes your body. I'm going to do some of that. There's injectable amino acids in there. There's also, obviously, my hormone replacement, HCG, anti-estrogen. So they got it. If you contact Titan Medical, you go to the TitanMedicalCenters.com online. You can and if you call over there, you can mention that Dave Palumbo sent you, and I'm sure they'll give you a nice little discount, and they'll take great care of you. So a lot of people have asked me, where can I get good hormone replacement that I can trust? Titans you can trust.
Let's go to Delador. Hey, Dave, I hate this show the most when people ask keto questions, so here is a keto question. I suspect that there is no keto strips to be found in my country. Is there any way to know if you're in ketosis? Can blood sugar indicate it?
Ketosis or keto strips are the most inaccurate way to determine if you're in ketosis. They're super. I know guys that are in such deep ketosis and the strips say mild. Don't use those. If you want to know if you're in ketosis, I'll tell you you're in ketosis. Don't eat any carbs. If you don't eat any carbs, you're in ketosis because the brain needs to use something for fuel. After 3 days of eating no direct sources of carbohydrates, you will be in ketosis. I promise you. And you know how you'll know? It'll be like someone flipped the light switch on. You'll feel alert. You'll feel good. You won't get mood swings. You won't feel low. Won't feel low blood sugar, because it means your brain is not using blood sugar anymore. For fuel, it's using fats or ketones. That's the best way to tell.
Let's go to TDC91. Dave, after watching your recent videos, you've convinced me to stick to PCT instead of going into a cruise. I was waiting for a joke there, but good job. My question is regarding my time off. I'm thinking 12 weeks including PCT, but here's my question. I just started HGH about a month or so ago and planned on running it all the way until my next show. Is this going to hinder my off time? I'm thinking no, since it doesn't affect my androgen receptors. I was also looking at trying some peptides such as IGF-LR3 and MK677. Would you recommend doing so to help prevent muscle loss?
What was the first thing he's doing again?
It's that you've convinced him to stick to PCT instead of going into a cruise.
Okay, yeah. Look, don't get so crazy when you're on post-cycle therapy about losing muscle. You're not going to lose muscle that fast, okay? You're only going off for 8 weeks. Okay, do you really think you're going to... The only way people on PCT, when they go off a cycle, lose a lot of muscle is they don't train, they don't eat right, and they don't get enough rest. That's the reason why people disappear. I knew so many guys coming up with me. When I first started taking steroids, they were like my age. We both would do it. We all would start kind of doing the stuff together. And as soon as they'd come off a cycle, I was in the gym every day, doing my workouts. I was not missing a meal. These guys were out on the weekends drinking. They weren't eating their meals on time. They would miss workouts. It's like they couldn't train unless they were on drugs. And those are the guys that lost muscle. I never lost muscle. Matter of fact, people used to accuse me of being on when I was off cycle because, when you go off, you lose all that extra fluid you hold from the cycle. And I actually looked leaner because, I walked around ripped all the time. So people would be like, you're not off. And I'd be off. I would be. So don't be so crazy about, I got to take this and that. How about just take nothing and just clean yourself out? Stay on nutritional supplements, eat well, get enough sleep. I tell some guys if you really want to, you can stay on 2 IUs of GH a day if that's really going to make you feel better. If you want to take some peptides, like some growth hormone releasing peptides, I don't think that's a bad thing either. but don't start like looking, searching. You know, when I get behavior like that, people, asking me questions about, can I take a pro-hormone? No, you can't. That's a steroid. Guys, you sound like heroin addicts when you talk about that. Go off means go off. It means nothing.
BR Ironman, hey Dave, Sid, and Johnny, first timer here in the Muscle Central Forum. I can no longer sit idly by and hold my tongue while this madness continues. Oh, how much I have come to hate this show. I discovered it about 2 months ago through a YouTube search using the keywords total waste of time bodybuilding shows. I'd rather have to admit to my mom that it was actually me who broke her most prized china plate 2 years ago than have to tell her how her grown-ass son now watches countless hours of Ask Dave back-to-back episodes frantically searching for why I should care about some cop named George Farah and his chief surgeon puppet named Stevie B who penned the meaningless phrase, why cut back? Forget the question, I need to call my mom and confess. Question. Much of my daily protein intake comes from dairy products. What are the pros and cons of using skim milk, cottage cheese, and Greek yogurt as a large percentage of the protein source in a bodybuilding diet? I drink 3 to 5 cups of milk a day, 1 in my post-workout protein shake and 1 before bed. Is this amount of overall dairy and specifically milk a good idea for muscle growth? How about for overall health?
Look, if you could digest lactose, which most people can't, especially adults, then it's not a bad source of protein. Obviously, all the whey isolate we get is derived from milk. The problem is that in regular milk and skim milk, specifically, okay, there's a lot of lactose, and a lot of people can't digest lactose. And if your body can't digest the milk sugar, the bacteria in your colon will ferment it. And when they ferment it, it produces gas, diarrhea, malabsorption of the protein that's in there. And a lot of times we just don't absorb all that protein because of it. Also, you got to remember, on another side of the coin, dairy in and of itself is an irritant to the intestinal tract. It causes the intestinal tract to release mucus. Okay? Why does the intestinal tract produce mucus in response to dairy? Because the dairy is irritating it. So the mucus protects the lining of the colon against this irritant. The problem is it's hard to absorb your food when you have this mucus there. Okay? A lot of people also notice when they take a lot of dairy, they get like runny eyes and they sometimes get some swelling in their eyes. That's an allergic response. It's not a very serious allergic response, but it means your body's immune system is not happy about what you're doing. So, having said that, is dairy okay to consume? Yes, in moderation. Should you be using that as your main source of protein? No.
Let's go to Bobby Leo. I hate this show more than watching the crappy Philadelphia Eagles try playing professional football. Go Steelers. Dave, I was wondering if you ever did a nutrition program for someone who's getting ready for an MMA fight, and if I were to hire you, how different would my diet be from my current bodybuilding style of eating? Knowing I can't have a lot of supplements due to the rigorous drug testing, how would that be different? I also fight in heavyweight, which is 265, and I routinely weigh 295.
Well, you have to diet down, just like anyone for that matter, which means cutting back carbohydrate intake. Would I cut carbohydrates completely out in an MMA fighter's routine? Absolutely not, because you're using that as your main fuel source, okay? Especially, with all the rigorous training that you're doing during the day. So once again, protein needs to be optimized. Fat needs to be optimized, but not, I guess you could say, not overloaded. Whereas bodybuilders get away with a lot more fat in their diet, and it's used, adequately for fuel. MMA fighting is more, fast twitch muscle fiber using glucose as a fuel source. So I would probably put together a diet that was high in protein, moderate to lower fat, but more on the moderate side, and then a moderate to, depending on how fast your metabolism, high carb diet. Now once again, it's all dependent on how I see your body, utilizing the nutrients. That's why there's always a trial and error period whenever you work with someone coaching wise to see how their body adapts to what you tell them. And yes, I have done a lot of diets for boxers, MMA fighters, power lifters. So all sports, the soccer players. You have to cater the diet to the sport. Most of what I do, however, and most of the questions we get asked, especially on shows like this, is bodybuilding related. That's why my answers are usually the same.
Let's go to Icon Show Off. Dave, what are the best exercises for developing the outer pecs?
Outer pecs grow really easy. Inner pecs, tougher. Inner pecs, usually you got to get a much more narrow grip around shoulder width or a little in between, and you want to keep your chest up nice and high, and you want to bring the bar a little higher. Outer pecs, you can get the wide grip in there, and that usually does the job. Outer pecs grow from anything. You could do push-ups and your outer pecs will grow. Okay, hammer strength machines, your pecs will grow. I know people say biomechanically it's not the correct way to do it, but I always believe that when you bench, you should keep your elbows flared out to the side, okay, rather than tucked in at your sides. When I used to keep my elbows flared out to the side as I came down with the bar, the pecs just engage a lot more. It's a lot easier to engage those pecs. It's hard to show you with a suit on, but if we were in the gym, I would show you. You want to keep those elbows pinned out to the side, pecs up high, and really squeeze. And I guarantee you that will bring more pec development and will eliminate more tricep involvement, and it will eliminate delt involvement.
Let's go now to our chat room. These are our fans watching us live on YouTube. As always, we appreciate your support. Ask you if you enjoy this video, hit the like button, and if you're watching us for the first time, to subscribe, hitting the button below. Let's go to Mirko Fedor. Dave, what's the best way to do cardio for body fat loss and science behind it? Answer, please, with hate from Croatia.
Croatia, that I love to hear from these foreign countries. That means we have a very international flavored field out there, a bunch of people listeners. As far as what's the question? I can confuse me. Oh, cardio.
For body
as far
fat,
as cardio goes, I always ask people, why are you doing cardio? Are you trying to get in cardiovascular condition, or are you trying to burn fat? Invariably, if it's bodybuilding related, I'm trying to burn fat. If you try to burn fat, the most efficient way to do the cardio is lower intensity cardio. Why? Because a lot of people will say high intensity cardio burns more calories, and it does, but what does high intensity cardio use as a fuel source? It uses glucose. We just talked about that before with regard to the MMA fighter. High intensity cardio uses glucose as a fuel source. Okay? That means that when you're doing the activity, your body's burning glucose as fuel. It's not burning stored body fat. Low intensity cardio, under 135 beats a minute, that kind of cardio where you're not breathing, where you can't control, where you can't have a conversation with the guy next to you, that type of cardio burns fat as a fuel source exclusively. Therefore, if you're looking to maximize fat burning, okay, you do low intensity cardio, so everything you're burning is fat as fuel. Otherwise, the high intensity cardio, you're going to burn glucose while you're doing the activity. You might have an afterburn effect or a metabolic, boosting effect from it that you will burn stored body fat later. But while you're doing the activity, you're not burning fat. So to me, that's a waste of time. I'd rather do a little bit longer cardio session, okay, with longer duration, lower intensity to maximize stored body fat. I've seen it a million times. I work with a lot of athletes. That's the most efficient way to do it. Plus, it guarantees you're not going to lose muscle.
Let's go back to the YouTube chat room and check in with, is that Mayan67? Dave, I've noticed you recommend McDonald's to competitors who are drying out too much, like Roman Fritz. Why do you recommend McDonald's over a meal of the same macros?
I got to tell you, Roman Fritz frantically texted me. He might be even watching this for all I know. Frantically texted me from Hong Kong. He's like, I must talk to you now. I said, all right. And so we FaceTimed each other this morning. I guess it's a 12-hour difference. It was 9 a.m. my time, at 9 p.m. his time. And he was just going. I don't think they had McDonald's there. They had McDonald's at the airport, because I have him eating McDonald's every single day now, because this kid will flatten out if he doesn't. And I want to see him, look good on stage. So he was going to the buffet, I think, to eat, and he wanted to just check with me. And the truth is that, when you eat cleaner foods, okay, of the same macro makeup as McDonald's, it just doesn't work the same. For some reason, it's the greasy, salty, junky aspect of McDonald's that just, for some reason, fills out a depleted, exhausted-looking muscle. I don't know why, what's in it. I would love to do an in-depth study. We should pay one of these universities to break down take the chemical breakdown of McDonald's and figure out what the hell it does, because it's doing something to the body, I promise you. But in general, when the body's very depleted, clean food just doesn't work anymore. You got to go junk. Whether you go for a piece of pizza, sometimes I'll send people for a piece of pizza. Sometimes I'll send people, some people like Mexican food. I try to find, McDonald's is pretty reproducible, because we kind of know that a hamburger is a hamburger. It doesn't change in size. So I know if I send someone for, 2 double hamburgers, there are double cheeseburgers, I know what they're getting. It's easier for me to tell them that than to tell them to go to the Chinese buffet, because then they're going to overeat invariably.
Let's go back to the chat room and check in with Joham1201. Dave, I got gyno from puberty, and then I made it a little worse with anabolics. I always hear you mentioning Dr. Blau, but he's pretty expensive. Would you consider doing a referral discount code?
Look, you get what you pay for. When you go to when you need plastic surgery done on yourself, and it's something that's going to be visibly noticeable, especially on stage, your nipples, don't skimp on the money. I promise you, I've seen so many terrible, terrible gynecomastia surgeries where the surgeon cuts beyond the nipple line, and you see the scar for the rest of the person's life. Dr. Blau's got this thing down pat. He's done thousands and thousands of procedures. He's very reasonable. If you got to come from out of state and you got to fly in and stay in a hotel, just contact me. I'll talk to him. We'll get him to knock off enough money that it will defer some of the cost so that you can pay for or justify paying for your trip. I promise you. He's very easy to work with in that regard. Once again, it's the one surgery. Women have to get breast implants. They don't have to, but women get breast implants when they compete. Men get the breast removed. That's the one big expensive surgery we all pretty much need if you're going to compete at an elevated level in the bodybuilding world. It is what it is.
Let's take another one from the YouTube chat and go to Jason Montero. I hate this show more than Kevin Lebroni hates to train his shoulders. My question is, what is the best age to start steroids, and what should be the first cycle for an ectomorph?
That's a personal decision. I don't think anyone under the age of 18 really should use anabolic steroids. Does it mean that they're not? No, there's a lot of teens using them. I just don't think that it's warranted. I think you can make plenty of excellent natural gains at a young age without the use of anabolics. So I would have to say over the age of 18. Once again, I've mentioned this before. First cycles, okay, there's no reason to use very powerful anabolics for first cycles, because anything you take is going to work, because your receptors are so good and so clean. So I usually tell guys to start off with Anavar, 20 milligrams a day, maybe mix with some Winstrol, 10 to 20 milligrams a day, or some Primabone and some Anavar. The first cycle I ever did was Primabone and Winstrol, and I gained like 15 pounds of solid muscle in about 12 weeks. And I wasn't using a lot. I was probably using 50 milligrams of Winstrol every other day, and I was taking like 200 milligrams of Primabone a week. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have nothing in your system and you've been training natural for a long time, and I had maximized my diet, my training was good, my body responded. And that's what I recommend.
Let's see, Johnny, do we have another one? We'll go to our Instagram questions. If you're not already following us on Instagram, it's Instagram at official_RxMuscle. Let's go to Wide Back Zach. How does calorie partitioning change based on increases or decreases in body fat? Example, dropping from 17 to 10% body fat.
Sometimes it doesn't change. Matter of fact, when you drop body fat, sometimes your metabolism gets better and you need more food. So there's no rule in stone as to how much you should decrease or increase calories. That's where coaching comes in. As a coach, if I see my athlete starting to lose weight very quickly all of a sudden, and their metabolism starts to get away from them, I got to feed them more, or cut their cardio back, or cut their fat burners back. If they do slow down and the weight loss slows, then I either have to take food out or increase the fat burners or the cardio. So that's where the coaching skills come in and experience comes in.
Let's go to Hugard Klaus. What exercise do you recommend for lats and traps?
Lats is your back, so pull downs, pull ups, bent rows, one arm rows. Some of the hammer machines I like. I kind of mix it around. The bent rows and pull downs are your bread and butter essentially for your back development. And then for traps, I like shrugs. I used to before my shoulders were bad. I used to really enjoy dumbbell shrugs, because the dumbbells, when you use barbell shrugs, you're kind of locked into one position. The dumbbell shrugs, you can kind of let the dumbbells fall where they naturally want to, and you just shrug them right up. And I think that's the most natural movement out there for traps, and I believe that built the most size for me, to be honest with you. Now they have the hammer strength shrug machines. I use those now because I'm lazy and because I have a bad quad and I don't want to have to stabilize the weight as much. But to me, dumbbell shrugs are the best.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Let's go back to the YouTube chat room and check in with Jeff. It's either Aris or Ayers. Dave, I was wondering if digestive enzymes are necessary to keep the waist small, especially bromelain, when consuming very high calories, 5,000 plus.
I don't believe that digestive enzymes really do anything unless you have a pancreatic problem where you don't produce enzymes. So I think knee-jerk response of taking more digestive enzymes is really not going to do anything for you. I tried them. All I would get was indigestion from taking them because I was overdoing it. I was putting too much acid into my body. I don't think they work. But I don't think they're going to harm you. But once again, when you think about how much money you have to spend on supplementation, I wouldn't waste it on enzymes before taking the things that are necessary: multivitamin, multimineral, essential fatty acids, fiber, that kind of stuff. So most people take the supplements they shouldn't be taking or wasting their money on, and then they don't take the stuff that they should be taking.
Let's go to Real Deal Lock or Locky. Can you explain how glycogen affects muscle growth?
It really doesn't. Other than the fact that it will spare muscle tissue. In other words, if glycogen stores, which is your stored glucose in your muscles and your liver, which provides energy for high intensity activities like weight training, if glycogen stores are like empty all the time, okay, and you go to the gym and train like first thing in the morning without eating, your body might cannibalize muscle tissue to turn it into glucose for fuel. So in that sense, glycogen or some glycogen in the muscle will spare muscle tissue, but the glycogen stores themselves and or the carbohydrates themselves have nothing to do with the muscle building process. And that's an important point to make. Carbs don't build muscle. Protein and fat do. Why? Because the muscle cells themselves are made up of protein predominantly and a fatty cell membrane around them. That's it. Carbs don't build muscle. They only spare muscle tissue from being used for fuel. So when you're trying to grow, you obviously want to take some carbs in so that your body uses those as fuel and doesn't feel the need to break down muscle tissue for those amino acids.
Let's go to D Squared Fit. I hate this show so much that I make my girlfriend listen to it on date night on the ride home. What do you recommend 2 weeks out to get rid of that last bit of stubborn fat? I know you said Akeem Williams has to suffer the last couple of weeks. Are you upping his cardio and taking out food?
Yes. And yes, starvation is the name of the game. The last two. For people who don't lose muscle, like Akeem Williams, Rashid Aldrich, or another guy who doesn't lose muscle, the only way to get the weight off him is starve him, over cardio him, do everything that's counterintuitive that you would never normally do for a regular person. You can do for them because that's the only way to get the fat off them. And I learned the hard way. Believe me, my first instinct is not to starve people and is not to give them too much cardio because I don't want them to lose muscle. But when you have a person who doesn't lose muscle and that can be tortured like that, that's what you got to do to get them in shape. I know Chris Aceto and I have had this conversation over and over. You would think that some of the most genetically gifted guys in the sport wouldn't need to do that, but a lot of them are genetically gifted because their bodies just want to build muscle. They want to hold their bodies. They don't want to let go of things. And for those people, you have to force it to let go, and a lot of times it's an uncomfortable situation.
Let's go back to the chat room. Daniel A. Dave, what do you suggest for weight loss for someone that is on thyroid meds for life because of hyperthyroidism?
Well, if you're on thyroid meds, that's a great thing. I know people can say, what? Well, if you're on thyroid meds, then you always know your thyroid gland, or your thyroid levels in your body, I should say, are normal and optimal. Okay? People who produce their own thyroid hormone, if they diet for excessive periods of time, their thyroid could slow down. But not the person who's taking thyroid hormone. So once you're dosed properly on the right amount of thyroid hormone, you've got nothing to worry about when you're dieting because it's not going to really shut down. However, most people that are dosed on thyroid are dosed on T4 or thyroxine. T4 is the inactive form of thyroid hormone. The body still needs to convert that to active T3. So if you are dieting and you're eating very, very low carbs and you're not having a cheat meal or your calories are too low, you still could have problems with low levels of active T3 in the body. So that's where a cheat meal or something, a refeed meal once a week, comes in handy.
Let's go to Vid Polank. Dave, your show sucks more than Rich Piana's arms suck collagen and PMA. Because they can't obtain good synthol. I get it. My question is, how big a caloric deficit can you have in your contest prep if you're heavily chemically enhanced but don't want to lose muscle? I know It is very individual, but I would still imagine you could have a much bigger deficit and do much more cardio than someone who is natural.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. You probably could push your body a little harder. Your ability to recovery is better if you're on steroids. Your body's ability to theoretically have a faster metabolism is better. But what I always say is anabolic steroids and GH just allow you to diet harder and achieve a better look. It doesn't mean you should coast more. So, yes, to answer your question, yes, you can push harder on anabolics.
Let's go to Rick Fox. Feel like I'm at a point where I want to start my first 12-week cycle. I've been doing some research, and I'm going with Tess and DECA. With that said, what is a good dosage to start with? And he goes on, I love the show.
Try 400 milligrams of Test and 400 milligrams of DECA a week. That's a good, nice first cycle, if that's what you want to do.
Let's go to Benadu14. I hate this show so much I would rather hire Dave as a coach, find out I can't do the show I planned on, then tear my Achilles. Question: what supplements and drugs would you use to speed up recovery of an Achilles tendon tear? Would growth hormone be beneficial to recovery?
Yeah, I think that GH would be great, but not a high dose, like 2 IUs a day. I would certainly take a lot of vitamin C, 3,000 milligrams a day. I would certainly take my arthrolyzed joint repair supplement. I would take 5 pills. I would take 5 pills 3 times a day. The recommended dosage is twice that I recommend, but I would actually do it 3 times a day just to give your body even more raw materials to repair that. I would make sure I rest enough. Sleep is very important in the healing of tendons and ligaments. And, I would make sure that I do my physical therapy, obviously, and stretch the area, because stretching brings blood flow. The key with tendon and ligament injuries is there's not a lot of blood flow there, so anything that will increase blood flow to the area is important. Likewise, you want to take the raw materials that make up the joint and connective tissue. That's why I recommended the arthrolyzed and the vitamin C.
Let's go to fit_millennial. Hey, Dave, love the show. I want to know your thoughts on Alex Fedorov. Will he ever be a contender?
Well, Alex is one of the biggest guys on the circuit. He's also, when he's in shape, he's one of the freakiest looking guys. Problem is, structurally, he's just not as good as some of these other guys. His waist is not tiny. He doesn't have the small joints. He's just like a massively big guy, which to me is impressive. I wish he would do more, videos and freaky lifting stuff so we can, enjoy him on social media more, because I think that he would be tremendously popular. Is he going to win the Olympia? No, there's no way he's going to win the Olympia. Can he win a pro show maybe if the lineup is weak? Yeah, absolutely. He's one of the biggest guys out there.
We're getting quite a few questions, but this one's from THC_ice cream. Obviously, you and Kevin Levrone have been in touch, and people want to know if you've gotten any recent updates. Is he on schedule?
The latest update, there hasn't been an update. It's been quiet from the Levrone camp, so that's probably a good sign from Kevin. I'll have to reach out to him. I'm sure I'll hear from him probably in another couple of days. Usually he's due around now. But when I don't hear from him, usually things are going very well, and that means he's going to try to surprise me with a new picture or something like that coming up, because he means that he's responding well. Believe me, Kevin Levrone is going to be very impressive at the Olympia. I know I predicted him to win, and I don't know if he will win. I'm still sticking by his decision, but he will impress people more than you can imagine.
Let's go back to the chat room, take our final question from our YouTube channel of Marek Bielwecki. Dave, your thoughts on working out by person with arterial hypertension?
Look, I think as long as you can control hypertension, being high blood pressure, if you can control your high blood pressure, with medications, there's no problem with working out. As long as there's no blockages in your heart, or there's no, arrhythmias that are not being addressed, I don't think it's a problem. I think that, once again, you got to find yourself a good cardiologist. I use a guy, Dr. Sal Trezera, here in Farmingdale, New York. I send a lot of people to him. He's my guy. He's the guy I make sure that my heart is good, that everything, I go for checkups, I get echocardiograms every, once a year, to make sure, because, when you hit your 40s, that's when things go wrong with the heart. You hear a lot of guys in the 40s and 50s falling down, dropping dead from heart attacks. That's scary and it should be. So you want to make sure your blood pressure is under control, because I have high blood pressure. It runs in my family. I'm always checking it. It's been very good lately, ever since, I've downsized, and that's one of the reasons I did it. and I still get my heart checked. And I think that you're naive if you don't go get it checked. You know, they have a machine out here in where is it? Right close to Farmingdale. Also, there's a hospital called St. Joseph's. They have a CAT scan that you could actually check the vessels of your heart. You don't need to go for the old route where they run the wires up or a cardiac cath you. You could actually sit in this ultrasound or in this CAT scan machine, and they can actually visualize your coronary arteries and tell you if you have heart disease. I mean, who wouldn't do that? You're crazy if you don't. It takes at least something you don't have to worry. One less thing you got to worry about. Am I going to drop dead of a heart attack? You know, and if you're in your 40s or 50s, it's a good idea to check it out, because who the hell knows what damage you did earlier in life, or if genetically you were predisposed. This way, if you do have a blockage, you can go and get a stent put in or address it at least. You know, it's better than not knowing. You know, and I feel great knowing that I don't have any blockages in my heart. You know,
Johnny, do we have any more in the chat room? All right, so our producer Johnny Styles is going to dig through the chat room.
I want to say one more thing, Sid. You know, I did this rant yesterday about synthol, because Rich Piana put out a rant where he was saying that synthol doesn't work and that no one uses it anymore. And, you know, I love Rich, and Rich and I will always be friends. It doesn't matter what we say about each other on air. And this is no disrespect to him, but he's wrong, unfortunately. I know a lot of guys use synthol. They buy it from my website. You know, I know who they are, and I give out the protocols all the time. You know what? Since I did the rant yesterday, and I told people I would give the protocol out to them, or at least advise them on how to use it. People have been emailing me at huge285@AOL.com, so much so that I was here till 11 o'clock at night last night. And all day today, that's all I've been doing is answering emails from people who want the protocol and want to know which product they should buy from my website. Look, the stuff works if it's used responsibly. And I'm all about not lying to people. I'm all about telling people how to do things the right way, okay? 80% of the people out there who compete, maybe more, use synthol, and they use it successfully. 5% of the people out there look like idiots because they use it irresponsibly. And then there's probably 10 to 12% of people who don't use it, okay? But a lot of people use it. And if you want to know the right way to use it, I don't have a problem telling you about it. I think it's important to discuss the truth. Why Rich put the video out, I don't know if he just wanted to be sensationalistic. And then Jerry Ward of BIOS 3 Training went on and tried to say that Rich was right, and it ruined him, and it didn't look good in him. You know what? Unfortunately, when you don't have good arms, you know, and you use site enhancement products to try to compensate for no arms, you know, it doesn't look good sometimes. And so I don't know what Jerry did or how he applied it, but unfortunately, Jerry, you're not right on that either. A lot of people use it very successfully, have very good results from it. I had 22.5-inch arms, you know, when I competed. I didn't naturally have 22.5-inch arms. I probably put a good 2.5 inches on those arms, if not more, from the proper use of synthol. Okay, and my arms look really good on stage. I prided the fact that they didn't look fake, and so I'm glad that people enjoyed the video and videos like that, and we'll continue to do more videos like that because I know you guys like instructional videos, and I want to thank everyone for liking our videos, subscribing to the YouTube channel, because we've gotten so many subscribers over the past 2-3 weeks that it invigorates me to do more videos like this. So thank you.
Speaking of which, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be joined by the reigning Miss Figure Olympia, Latoria Watts, live with Latoria Watts tomorrow at 3 p.m. right here on RxMuscle.com. Let's go to Alan Marashi. Dave, I've been taking Arthrolyze for a few months now. My joints feel better. Will I be able to take Arthrolyze continually without the body adapting to it? Why not?
No, your body will never adapt to that. It's like saying that if I eat protein every day in my diet, a high-protein diet, will my body not build muscle anymore? No, you're just giving your body the raw materials that they require to repair joint and connective tissue, and that's what you should be doing. A lot of people, they don't do that because they would rather spend their money on a stupid pre-workout that doesn't do anything, or L-glutamine, which doesn't do anything, and they won't buy the stuff that actually helps them perform better in the gym. We don't eat ligaments, tendons, and cartilage in our diet. Therefore, you need to consume them in a supplemental form. Arthrolyze, our Species Nutrition joint repair product, provides a whopping 4 grams of glucosamine and 4 grams of MSM. Plus, we now include UC2 collagen, which helps desensitize the immune system to damage in the joints, which helps the joints repair themselves better. It's the #1, best performing joint repair product on the market. Why? Not because Dave Palumbo's that smart. It's because it's dosed properly. Don't take half the dose I tell you. Take the 5 pills twice a day, and I promise you, your joints won't hurt you anymore.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. For Dave Palumbo and Johnny Styles, I'm Sadiq Faruqi reminding you tomorrow, 3 p.m., Latoria Watts here on RxMuscle.com. We'll see you next week.